Good afternoon. Today is March 5th. Welcome to the bill hearings of the Ways and Means Committee. First, calling House Bill 1352, Delegate Wu.
Good afternoon, Chair Atterbury, Vice Chair Wilkins, the honored Ways and Means Committee. So I'm going to introduce Bill HB 1352. This bill is a Howard County delegation bill. So it's focused on the authorized Howard County Board of Education to establish by law system for public campaign finance for the election of county school board member. And I hope this committee will in favor of this bill. And that's all. Sure.
Any questions for Delegate Wu? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. That concludes the hearing on House Bill 1352. House Bill 1353, Delegate Wu.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the same bill from Howard County delegation is really focused on the ranked choice voting for election of school board member. This is an enabling bill, enabled Howard County to adapt this. And it's really to try to promote ranked choice voting. So it's a county delegation bill. Please vote in favor of this bill as well.
Okay, any questions? That concludes, we kicked you out. That concludes the hearing on House Bill 1353. Thank you, Delegate.
Thank you.
House Bill 1357, Delegate Feldmark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Chair Atterbury, Vice Chair Wilkins, and committee members. For the record, I'm Delegate Jessica Feldmark, here to present House Bill 1357 on behalf of the Howard County delegation. So this bill would authorize the county government to enter into payment in lieu of taxes agreements with property owners for providing voluntary moderate income housing units. So Howard County has an inclusionary zoning program where each new development is required to do a certain percentage of moderate income housing units, which in the rental market are affordable at up to 60% of Howard County's median income. However, a good bit of our multifamily housing stock was built before that requirement was in place. So this would allow property owners to voluntarily put units into the MIHU program and allow the county government to negotiate pilot agreements as an incentive to do so. Happy to answer any questions, and I ask for your favorable report.
Any questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. That concludes the hearing on House Bill 1357, Delegate Feldmark, House Bill 1348.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, colleagues. I am still Delegate Jessica Feldmark, here to present House Bill 1348. This would allow the homestead property tax credit for households that at least 50% of their income is from Social Security benefits. It would limit the amount of increase under the homestead property tax credit to no more than the cost of living adjustment under Social Security. So this is about targeting our tax relief to those homeowners who need it most. And I'm happy to answer any questions. And once again, ask for your favorable report.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. I don't see Director Higgs. He was signed up as unfavorable. So that concludes the hearing on House Bill 1348. Delegate Metzger, House Bill 1251.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to see Madam Chair and Madam Vice Chair. It's a joy to see you. I always like to say this is a distinguished group of people. Some of you a little distinguished more than others, but I love y'all. For the record, Delegate Rick Metzger from District 6, Baltimore County. This bill came to me actually. We passed this bill a couple of years in Baltimore County, and I shared it with Governor Moore a few months ago, and he said, put it in statewide. I don't know about you, but I have people telling me every day I'm leaving the state, and we have done some research, and I don't have my records with me, but there's been a lot of people moving to Delaware out of this state. I'd rather see the seniors stay here. But what I do know about our seniors, they live on fixed income. How many times have you heard I live on fixed income? And what they like to know is their budget. And when they know that their taxes is going to be $3,000 and the next year it might be $3,800, they don't like that. But what they do like is it would be proportioned at whatever the rate going is, and it's not going up. And if we've had our seniors in these homes for 30 years or more, the tax increase will never go up as long as they live in that house and make no more than $75,000 in income. And so basically that's the simple part of the bill. I'm been given this opportunity from Governor Moore, and I feel like I want to ask you for a very favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you. There is a William Steinwaddle. Is he here? You want to come on up?
Hello, Chair Atterbury, the rest of the Ways and Means Committee. My name is William Steinwaddle. I'm the supervising attorney for the Maryland Legal Aid Bureau Foreclosure Legal Assistance Project, and we testify in strong support of House Bill 1251. House Bill 1251 will provide additional tax credit to offset increases in property taxes for long-term older residents of the state of Maryland. But by providing these credits, it will make it less likely that seniors will go into tax sale. Tax sale can have a lot of adverse consequences. It can cause the loss of the home, but even if the person's able to save it, it could cost them to have to pay additional interest, attorney's fees, and attorney's fees cost due to the result of the property going into tax sale. In addition, by allowing for an additional tax credit for those who have lived in the property for more than 30 years and are elderly, this would House Bill 1251 would make it easier for generational wealth to pass from one generation to another. A lot of times seniors, when their property taxes go up, are faced with choices of either selling the property, doing a home equity conversion mortgage, which is typically known as a reverse mortgage, or leaving the property entirely. By accounting for an increase in property taxes, House Bill 1251 would prevent this from happening, and would allow wealth to pass in lower income households in lower income and minority households where there can be a great issue with the loss of generational wealth. So for those reasons, Maryland Legal Aid testifies in strong support of House Bill 1251 and urges a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you. And questions?
Madam Speaker, if I may
Yes.
just add one thing.
Yes.
One of the things that I forgot was that this bill also goes to the veterans as well.
Thank you. Delegate Attar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Delegate, for this bill. I know you said Baltimore County does this already. Is there anywhere else in the state of Maryland that does?
No, several years ago, we passed the Welcome Home, Stay Home. And it's throughout the state. And what that bill did was keep the seniors as well as they gave them a discount of 20%. But what this bill does is freezes their tax. Say if they're 70 years old, their taxes is not going to go any higher.
Got it. Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, thank you. That concludes the hearing on House Bill 1251. Delegate Ruth, House Bill 1109.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee, I think I'm in your committee this session more than I'm in my own, so it's great to see you again. For the record, I'm Delegate Sheila Ruth, and I'm here presenting House Bill 1109. The goal of House Bill 1109 is to protect the rights of citizens to participate in a fundamental part of the democratic process, one that is guaranteed in the Maryland Constitution. Citizens of Maryland can collect petition signatures to place a local charter amendment party or independent candidate on the ballot. Ballot petitions are a fundamental way for citizens to participate in the democratic process, yet there are significant barriers to citizen participation. Signatures are collected, as they always have been, on paper forms that voters must fill out with their name, address, date, and any other information required by the State Board of Elections, and then sign their name. The petition circulator then signs the affidavit at the bottom of each signature page attesting to the signatures they collected. Just a note throughout this testimony, when I mention signature, I mean the entire entry, including name and address. The way the statute is written, it sometimes refers to the signature when it does kind of mean the entire thing. The form itself is a barrier because particularly to people with disabilities who may have trouble filling out the form. And HB 1109 is supported by the National Federation of the Blind of Maryland because of the barriers these forms are for blind people who require assistance to fill out the form and must rely on someone to read the petition description to them, creating potential for accidental or intentional misinformation. The signature collection process is another barrier. A voter who is homebound, lives in a care facility, works long hours, doesn't have transportation, is in the military, stationed elsewhere, or travels extensively for work may not have the opportunity to meet a circulator to sign a petition. After signatures are collected, the signature pages are turned in to the local Board of Elections for validation. The validation process is another barrier. The entries are checked against voter rolls using very exacting and arcane rules. For example, a voter must print their name in full exactly as it appears on their voter registration, or they must include their surname as it appears on the registration, along with at least one full given name and the initials of any other name. I've signed petitions, and every time I do, I have to look up my name on my voter registration because I can't remember, did I include my middle name? Did I not? You know, I don't want to make the mistake. And when you have someone like my husband, who's John Nicholas Ruth III, but goes by Nick, his middle name, he, you know, should he sign it as John Ruth, Nick Ruth, Nicholas Ruth, J. Nicholas Ruth? You know, it's very complicated. So failure to follow these rules exactly means that the voter's signature will be declared invalid, thus disenfranchising them from the democratic process. This is so common that petitioners are generally advised by the Board of Elections to turn in at least 15,000 signatures to ensure they meet the requirement of 10,000. So, you know, roughly a third of the signatures you turn in can be invalidated. And when that happens, the voter doesn't even necessarily know that their signature is invalidated or have any way to correct it. Again, disenfranchising them. So HB 1109 includes a series of measures to modernize the ballot petition process and fix problems that petition campaigns have encountered and increase its accessibility to Maryland citizens. The bill allows voters to sign a petition electronically using a phone or computer, and the State Board of Elections would have to develop regulations for how to do that. You know, in our modern day, you can sign legal, financial, and healthcare related documents electronically from home. Why can't you sign a ballot petition? Why should this be any different? The State Board of Elections indeed allowed electronic signatures in 2020 during the pandemic, and it worked very successfully. But they've now said it's up to the General Assembly to determine whether this should be a long-term policy. And I want to make the point that electronic signatures, and that includes all the information, the name, address, and everything that's submitted, would still need to be validated by the local Board of Elections. But validation would actually be easier and potentially save time and money. HB 1109 also relaxes the arcane name rules, allowing signatures to be valid as long as the validator at the local board of elections can reasonably confirm the identity of the signer with the information provided. It allows signers to sign the affidavit as the circulator to confirm the validity of their own signature. The courts have actually already ruled that this is valid in a case, Whitney v. Maryland State Board of Elections, that the circulator can self-attest to their own signature, but this just codifies that in law to make sure that it's there. It requires a signature page to clearly mark what information is optional. So for example, right now, the signature pages, the Board of Elections asks for birth date, but that's optional. People don't necessarily know it's optional. Some people are reluctant to give their birth date, so they just will not sign the petition. So if that's clearly marked as optional, then they know they can sign it, but not give their birth date. The bill requires accessibility of electronic signature pages for people with disabilities, requires the responsible Board of Elections so in the case of a deficiency where they say there's not enough signatures that are valid, it requires them to provide the list of signatures to the petition campaign with the signatures that were declared invalid marked as well. And the Board of Elections can charge a fee not to exceed the actual cost to get that copy. And then it allows for voters whose names or entries were invalidated to submit a correcting page up to a certain date, and we work that date out with the Board of Elections. And so the State Board of Elections takes no position on this bill, but I did work closely with Jared Demarinis to make sure that everything in this bill would work with the Board of Elections. The Maryland Constitution states that the General Assembly shall prescribe by law the form of the petition, the manner for verifying its authenticity, and other administrative procedures which facilitate the petition process and which are not in conflict with this article. So that's in the Constitution. It's clear that it's up to us as legislators to ensure that the ballot petition process is accessible to the voters of Maryland. It's high time we brought this process into the 21st century, as we have already demonstrated is possible, and I ask for a favorable report for HB 1109.
All right. Thank you to the chair, the vice chair, and all the committee members for the opportunity to testify on this bill. And thank you to Delegate Ruth for sponsoring this important legislation. And thank you to each of the co-sponsors. My name is Stephen Andy Ellis, and I'm a former chair of the Baltimore and Maryland Green Parties, a leader of the Green Party United States Ballot Access Policy Working Group, and an appointed member of the Baltimore City Charter Commission. The policy and process around petitions and grassroots democracy is a passion of mine and increasingly an area of focus. Since April of 2020, I've worked with Jared Demarinis and other staff of the SBE and Senator Carter and Delegate Ruth to make petitions more accessible, including advocating for the 2020 policy which allowed temporary electronic signatures during the COVID state of emergency. I've submitted written testimony and op-ed from the Daily Record, both of these discussing important policy considerations, and I also submitted a sign-on letter from about 180 Maryland voters. But today I'm here in no official capacity. I'm just here as a Maryland voter who likes to sign a petition to get something on the ballot. When I'm at the farmer's market, I do my best to sign petitions for groups, candidates, and parties, but I always worry that my signature will end up being one of the roughly 30% of signatures the state or local boards invalidate for one reason or another. I know that if my signature is invalidated, I will have no way of finding out that, and I will have no way of correcting it. I'm not alone. I know that many voters eligible to sign a petition make a reasonable effort to do so and have their signature invalidated. I think this is a problem, and I think it's one that we can solve. HB 1109, the Ballot Petition Modernization Act, is the solution to this problem. It makes permanent a successful COVID-era policy allowing electronic signatures. It applies a reasonability standard to name matches, and it allows voters to fix technical errors that cause their signatures to be invalidated. These steps are good solutions that make it easier for Maryland voters to utilize their voting rights. It is good legislation and good policy, and I hope it can become good law this year. I urge a favorable report on HB 1109. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have someone here virtually, Jeff Kalak.
Hi, yes. This is Jeff Kalak with the National Federation of the Blind. And I also want to say that we view this this legislation favorable as well, for many reasons. One thing, paper ballots and paper petitions are not accessible to many blind individuals. And so when you're being brought a petition at a particular event, for the blind individual being presented with this ballot, they're not able to read or verify what is there that has been presented to them. So allowing an electronic petition will allow them to review this information, make sure that it's correct, and be able to verify that, in addition to being able to sign it, because we know right now the signatures do not match the registration signature that is provided. The petition may be thrown out. So for these reasons, we strongly favor this legislation. It will help many blind Americans be able to sign petitions and be able to hear and fully get a grasp of what the petition is about when they're signing it.
Okay, committee, are there questions from any of the witnesses? Okay, seeing none, thank you all very much. And that concludes the hearing on House Bill 1109, House Bill 1324, Delegate Weibel.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and honorable members of the Ways and Means Committee. I am Delegate Weibel, pleased to present House Bill 1324, which alters the applicability of the homestead property tax credit. HB 1324 would extend the homestead tax credit to all residences in the state, not just those that are utilized as the property owner's principal residence. For the fiscal note, approximately an additional 700,000 accounts would be eligible for the tax credit program, bringing the total to 1.9 million homes statewide. There have been numerous bills introduced in this legislature to either cap or limit the amount that rents may increase in the state. As costs of doing business increase, so do rents. Property taxes are a material component of those costs. It doesn't seem fair that renters bear substantial increases in their rents so that landlords can in turn recover increasing property taxes, while the exact same home with equal value has its assessment and corresponding tax increase limited only because it is used as a principal residence. The bill looks to use and extends the same benefit of an owner-occupied resident to a home that is occupied by a renter. Residential assessment increases this past cycle range from a low of 18.4% in Talbot County to a high of 51.4% in Somerset County. Washington County experienced a 40% increase in its residential assessments this past cycle. The average statewide increase in residential assessments was 25.6%. I have a constituent whose assessment was increased by 60%. It's a residential property, but not owner-occupied. I ask that you help alleviate this disproportionate property tax burden borne mainly by those who do not own their own homes, and I ask for a favorable report on House Bill 1324, and thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Delegate Weibel? Okay, thank you. We do have Kevin Canali, and I do not see Director Higgs.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Kevin Canali here on behalf of the Maryland Association of Counties in opposition to the bill. We're here for the fiscal note. This bill has at least a $30 million fiscal note. If you dig into the fiscal note, I think it goes up to 75 million, depending on how many people would use this new credit for second homes. Certainly understand the concern about rising assessments that's felt across the state. Those are phased in over 3 years. I will also mention that every county has a homestead tax credit. Nearly every county has exercised the authority to go even further than the state requires. So we're trying to mitigate the effects as much as possible. But if this bill were to pass, I think a lot of counties would have to reverse those actions and just go back to the state minimum that they're required to do for the homestead credit, or give up revenue for public safety, schools, all the other things we do every day. So understand the intent of the bill, appreciate it very much, but respectfully, we'd ask for an unfavorable report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay, thank you very much. That concludes the hearing on House Bill 1324. Delegate Adams, House Bill 1222. And you have a panel, Dr. James Kelly, Ryan Kelly, Shari Wilcoxon, and virtual Christopher Gleason. I mean, we've had a rough couple of weeks. So
You have a very good chair.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. For the record, I'm Delegate Chris Adams, happy to present House Bill 1222 titled Local Boards of Election Maintenance and Public Disclosure of Election Records. Let me get out of the way early what the bill does, which is very narrowly crafted and designed to be easy to pass. We are trying to extend the number of years that records for elections are held from 3 years to 10. The other part of the bill is that for those records, they become publicly available, and I'll get into why that's important in this bill. And lastly, if production of records is not given by folks that are required to do that, this bill will allow a writ of mandamus to allow judicial relief to the particular issue. So why am I bringing the bill? I'm bringing the bill because we have concerns with election integrity, and that integrity can be maintained where there's transparency. Transparency through my lens doesn't matter whether there's incompetence within the system or whether there's some willful deception. The point is that transparency in the production of records is the element that we use to determine whether a thing works. That's the citizen's regress when there's problems or perceived problems. Chain of custody matters to me. It should matter to everyone here. When we have mail-in ballots, there's definitely steps between when a person votes and then when that vote is tabulated. Every chance that there is a break in that chain of custody, there's an opportunity for fraud. Let me just be blunt. Again, transparency is the only way to make sure that we have faith in the election and those results. And so this bill seeks to resolve that issue. Let me just say one last thing, which I think's obvious to most of us here. The election process changed, perhaps forever, during COVID. When I bring a bill that says we want to extend the number of years of the keeping of these records from 3 years to 10 years, it's because I believe that we need to make sure that these election results, the tabulation and the records that we should be keeping, extend to 10 years, because for now and for the next handful of years, if there are requests from citizens to review and to observe what was happening in these past few election cycles, that we make sure that these local boards of elections are doing their due diligence and doing their responsibility and maintaining these records. My last comment on the bill, and then I'll pass it to my panel of concerned citizens from Talbot County, is that the fiscal note speaks to some financial impact to maintain these records. I'm just going to say, with all due respect to Department of Legislative Services, and we all respect Department of Legislative Services, there's just no way it's going to cost $10,000 per county to keep additional records. The same buildings, the same spaces can keep the records. And I would ask the committee to give this bill a favorable vote from someone who's a fairly pragmatic elected official. There is frustration and frankly some anger that the local boards of election don't do what they're asked. Else I wouldn't be bringing a bill like this. So, Madam Chair, thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and I'll pass my testimony to my friends and citizens from Talbot County, and then I think we have a virtual as well.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. James Kelly. I'm a Maryland physician. I am speaking on behalf of the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons, which is a nationwide organization of physicians. We are in support of this bill, House Bill 1222. Transparency equals trust equals confidence. No transparency is secrecy. Secrecy, no trust, no confidence. That's all we're interested in. My understanding, this bill is very simple. We just want the individual boards of election to follow the law that's already in Maryland. We think that it's appropriate for them to maintain accurate records like every other responsible public and private entity does, and to make those records available upon proper request to public inspection like every other public and private entity does. Transparency permits honest elections. Without honest elections, we have no freedom, no liberty, and dictatorship pursues. Just like a physician or a hospital maintains records, the information belongs to the person, the patient, or to the public. This is not information that is the personal property of boards of election. It should be available upon proper request to the public for inspection. If the board is doing everything that is necessary, what is the problem? Why would they be afraid to release this information upon proper request? We're just asking them to be honest and transparent. Please support House Bill 1222. Thank you very much.
Hi, everybody. Thank y'all for having me. My name is Sherry Wilcoxon, and I am a citizen of Talbot County. Yes, our theme is transparency equals trust. Regardless of who wins any election, confidence in the outcome is paramount, and I think should be paramount for all of you. None of you all would want any of your constituents to think that you are only sitting here because of potentially some sort of fraud in the voting system. So in a recent survey, 93% of all Americans polled said they support no fraud in elections. They support election transparency. Have you ever heard of 93% of Americans agreeing on most anything? I mean, that's a pretty big deal. Since the year 2000, I'm just going to go back that far, there have been many people in each political party crying foul in our elections. To name a few nationally, we know, of course, Donald Trump and a multitude of his voters have decried elections are rigged, but so has Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, Adam Schiff, Jerry Nadler, Maxine Waters, Elizabeth Warren, and Stacey Abrams still says that she's the governor of Georgia. So there are many people on both parties, and all of this is available on the internet. You can go watch the videos. All this is very easy to find. And right here in Maryland, I don't know how many of y'all have seen the news story that just came out about a week ago, but Lynn Garland, wife of Attorney General Merrick Garland, her emails were FOIA'd, MPIA'd, and she has multiple emails and letters that she's written with concerns about potential voter fraud associated with the ES&S and DS 200 tabulators. This was in 2015. So this has been going on a long time. The only way to quiet everybody down and to give everybody confidence is for transparency. So we're asking, please support this bill. Please vote yes, just for them to provide the information that's already in COMAR. It's already in the election judge manuals that they produce it. They have it. Why won't they provide? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you to this panel. If you can stay here, I believe that there is an oral witness as well.
Hello.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for being with us. You can proceed with your testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Christopher Gleason. I'm with the Justice Society. We've been doing a lot with regards to election integrity and transparency across the United States. Our work in Maryland has, with transparency, has been significantly frustrated by the various boards of elections, as well as the State Board of Elections. This is highly problematic due to the fact that we have significant irrefutable evidence that many hundreds of thousands of Maryland voters have actually been disenfranchised via the ES&S voting systems. And our efforts for transparency in Maryland have been hampered. Now, it's wonderful to have new legislation. However, if they are currently not following the law anyways, my concern is, what is a new law going to do? I'm very grateful and thankful that you're considering extending it out for 10 years. However, we have significant issues today with regards to these machines. And from what I'm hearing, that there is some concern about cost. Well, an excellent way to reduce those costs would actually be to follow the law and mandatory decertify the systems that are in use in Maryland currently, because they do not meet any EAC certification requirements or Maryland certification requirements. This is a huge problem, and this needs to be addressed. And at the end of the day, if you have hundreds of thousands of disenfranchised voters, government ceases to be legitimate because there is no consent of the governed. Thank you.
Thank you much, sir. I'm looking to see if there are any questions. And seeing none, that concludes the hearing on House Bill 1222. Delegate Adams, there was a Ryan Kelly that we didn't see come up, I don't think so.
I think he'll be here on Friday for the Senate hearing.
Okay,
So,
all right.
yeah.
Just want to make sure we didn't miss him. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So there is one more bill, colleagues. We are working to locate Delegate McComas. We did move through very quickly, so she may not have. You know where she is? Well, I think we can wait about 30 seconds, but comes between us and the end of our bill hearings. Well, Madam Chair gets to decide. She just entered the room.
Morning.
Hey. Okay. All right, calling House Bill 1288, Delegate McComas.
You were the last one of my three, and then doggone it, you messed me up. Okay, all right, just a second here. All right, this is a simple bill proposed by a simple delegate. It's HB 1288, which is the election law initiative process. In 1992, Mississippi became the 24th state to include the initiative process in their constitution. HB 1288 authorizes the people to petition to vote a proposed change in the law to add, amend, or repeal Maryland statutes or the Maryland Constitution that was not approved at a regular or special session of the Maryland General Assembly. The bill proposes a direct initiative process. Proposals that meet the qualifications enunciated herein go directly to the ballot. However, before such a petition is circulated for signatures, the petition must be submitted to the Secretary of State. The Attorney General is then to review and approve the petition once deemed accurate. Once approved for accuracy, signers of the petition must not be compromised by more than 50% from Baltimore City or any one county. Signers must also number at least 10% of the votes cast for the governor in the last gubernatorial election. The people have 180 days from the date the final action on the bill by the Maryland General Assembly to begin the initiative process. Documented signatures must be supported by affidavit by the person or persons procuring the signatures, assuming that based on the person's information, knowledge, and belief, the signatures are genuine, that the signers are registered voters in the state and from Baltimore City or county as indicated. Upon determination by the Secretary of State that the original and supplemental petitions meet the prerequisites and are valid signatures, the Secretary shall certify the proposal for a vote. If the certification is complete at least 90 days before the next general election, then the proposal shall be submitted for a vote on the next ballot. If less than 90 days before the upcoming general election, then the proposal will be on the ballot on the next general election thereafter. The proposal must then be published prior to election day. The ballot shall delineate the proposal as a separate item and will be sufficiently identified, followed by words for the initiative proposal and against the initiative proposal. Votes cast for and against are sent to the governor within 30 days. The governor shall then determine the final count, both for and against. If at least 50% of the votes cast are in favor of the proposal, or in the case of an amendment to the Maryland Constitution, 2/3 of the votes cast are in favor, the governor shall immediately declare the proposal effective. If two or more proposals receive a favorable vote of the majority but conflict with each other, the governor shall declare that only one proposal receiving the highest number of votes would become law. The law becomes a part of the Maryland statute or the Maryland Constitution 30 days after the governor's proclamation. Finally, an initiative proposal that becomes law may be amended or repealed in the 2 years following its effective date upon a vote of 2/3 of both the House and the Senate of the Maryland General Assembly. Please issue a favorable report of 1288. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions, Delegate Buckle?
Good question. Thank you, Delegate McCombs. A lot of other places do this, right? So for example, oftentimes with bills, we talk about how what other states do. To my recollection, like the state of California, that we often follow legislatively, we follow California's initiatives. California has a direct ballot initiative petition somewhat similar to this, correct?
Correct.
And in fact, just over the past year, a lot of folks on the abortion issue have used this in states like Ohio, Kentucky, other places, people who are on the sort of pro-choice side of that issue. They've used the direct ballot initiative petition process to effectuate their political will that they can't get done through legislatures. Is that a fair way to say it?
I believe so. I think what it'll do is it will make the public become more proactive instead of just waiting for something to happen within the legislative branch or the executive branch, and then have to have it vetted by the judicial branch. In other words, it will energize the public, and that is really what we need. We need people to really engage in the political sphere, because it's important. We need people to understand the different roles of the different government and to be able to really participate in the democracy.
I appreciate it. I did want to just point that out. This is something that's not new. It's something that red states have, blue states have, and that both major political parties seem to use, and issue advocates across the spectrum use frequently in the United States to advance policy objectives. So thank you for the idea.
Well, actually, it's been proposed by even I guess I'd call him a Supreme Court judge in Maryland, Judge Getty. So, but but I don't think he was ever a Supreme Court judge. He was a Court of Appeals judge.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much. Thank you, Delegate McComas.
Thank you.
And that concludes the hearing on House Bill 1288, and that concludes the bill hearings for the Ways and Means Committee today.
Under 15 minutes. Wow.
We are going to take about a 10-minute break and then come back. So